All right. And I've got the chat opened. As you guys, have questions, comments, feel free to throw them in there. I can be kind of like a squirrel, so I probably will just run. I'll be like mid-sentence and run over there and then come back. But trying to keep you entertained and awake, so we shall do that. And I don't know if anybody else is missing the Cubs game right now, but I am. But I realize I don't have Apple TV Plus, so it doesn't matter anyway. But I was thinking, should I get like a free trial so I can see the Cubs? All right, let's dive in. So if you're like, what's DERA? You're going to learn in just a second. And some of you are like, oh, I know what DERA is. Tara's like, oh yeah. If you're in Illinois, it is a 4-letter word. Look at me, I'm being punny. Okay, so, I saw Joe just joined. Hi, Joe. I had the wrong Zoom link and I wasn't able to come to your check-in. Same with Chris Warden from Women Employed. But I'm actually going to be bragging about Illinois Central in just a little bit. So we will be sharing some good news that they have. All right, so I'm Kathy Alme. I think most of you know me, but if you don't, my background was math faculty. Now I run a consulting group. I'm in my 4th year, and every year we get more clients that we're working with. And right now it's over 30 colleges nationwide. That I know, Chris, I'm sad to miss it too, but I heard really good news about ICC. So we'll be sharing. There's a little thing that they're trying that I think is pretty awesome. I want to share with the group. The cool thing in my role is I have lots of one-on-one clients where I'm like right in the thick of their redesign with them. But I also get to work with these big groups. And that's really cool because I get to see so many schools all at once. And it's fascinating. I'm always taking notes. I'm always like, ooh, there's a trend that we're noticing. Ooh, that worked. Ooh, here's a good idea. And what I like is, I would never claim to have all the answers, but what I love is I'm connected to people. Like if I don't have the answer, pretty much I know where somewhere I could get it. So like the other day, I had a school that's really struggling with Banner. And one of the schools that's in one of these groups, she said, we have a Banner wizard. And it's like, yes. And we connected them and we got they were having issues with scheduling their co-requisites. So they would pair up nicely and we were able to fix it. That's what I love about this work is just the network and the communication and crowdsourcing of information. I just find that absolutely fascinating. And I keep thinking, I wish I had that on every redesign I've ever worked on. Because I don't know if you're like me, but I was like, I'd go to Google and be like, okay, has someone done this yet? Does someone have like a paper? Can they tell me how this worked? And, or then you try to email someone and, people are busy. So they don't always have time to call you up and go, oh yes, these are all the things that did not work. So that's what's really cool about this work. Okay, now if you're thinking, is the first slide going to take that long? Are they all going to take this long? No. Okay, so let's hit it. DERA, Developmental Education Reform Act. So this is a component of House Bill 2170. It's an enormous law, and Article 100 is DERA, and it is became law 2 years ago. So that's hence the name of this presentation. And again, I want to make sure I am recording. Yay me. Okay, so a couple of key things that were required in it. Illinois community colleges, and I believe universities, but I don't know where all the universities are with things, but I know where the community colleges are. So they are required to have multiple measures in place for particular courses. And those of you that are in other states, our magic number for GPA for a lot of courses is 3.0. Some states it's 2.5, some it's 2.7, but ours is 3.0. That's not for every math course, but that's for like an elementary statistics, an elementary like liberal arts math, a 3.0 GPA high school unweighted will allow you to get into that. We do not have a requirement of co-requisites. However, vast majority of the schools are using co-requisites or have tried or are trying or that they're just in the mix of everything that people are doing. What our law says is you're supposed to maximize the probability that a student can complete a math and an English college level credit within 2 semesters. And to do that, that pretty well means, you need some accelerated options. Co-requisites have definitely become a popular way to do that. Now, for those of you that are in other states, we do have a little perk, and I try to remind people of that in Illinois all the time. We are allowed to have 1 semester of Dev Ed standalone, And there are a lot of states that are not. So when you see different things I'm going to be talking to you about, just know that if you're in another state, in our state, you could still have a course before, a full semester before college algebra. You can't have 2 semesters, but you could have 1 semester before that. All right. And this is really important. Our law specifically calls out that we are supposed to be increasing equity and providing acceleration for Black students, but also Latinx students. And the nice thing is when we do this work, when we support Black and Latinx students or any specific population, everybody benefits. So the work that we're doing there is totally necessary, but it also has broader impact, which is really nice. Okay, so what is ASPIRE? So I mentioned in the description. So ASPIRE is accelerating student progress and increasing racial equity, one of my absolute favorite acronyms I've ever seen in education. I didn't create it. The person who created it, Women Employed, man, were they like, that's so, I loved it. It was just perfect. But Women Employed is a group that I work with, and they contract me to do technical assistance. And we've got 10 colleges that we are helping. And it's not, and what I love is the work is expanded. When we started, it was pretty much, I was the only one providing technical assistance. Now we have someone who provides English technical assistance. And we have someone who is helping with data consulting. And so I love it because we're able to help schools more, which is really nice. These are the 10 ASPIRE colleges. We had one college that was in at the first round, Heartland, that isn't in the second round. And instead we have Moraine Valley in because we're in our second year of it. Okay, so you can see those: Blackhawk, Illinois Central, Kaskaskia, Lakeland, Lewis and Clark, Moraine Valley, Prairie State, Richland, Shawnee, and Waubonsee. All over the state, all different sizes, not one particular demographic. We wanted to have a lot of variety and diversity in the types of schools we work with. Okay, so that project is going on. Then we have another project in Illinois, and some of you are in your schools, might be in that. So Partnership for College Completion is another group that is in this space that gets funding and supports efforts. And we've got some folks from PCC here today, also Women Employed. And I'm not just saying this because I have to. I like them. I really like working with these groups, and I like the work that they're doing. They want to make a change, and they bring in, not just me, but all kinds of support to help schools make these changes. And I've really enjoyed these projects. So we're running what I call an accelerator. So for those schools, what we do is I've been working with them for a couple of months. We've got a couple of more months this year. And if you're wondering which schools, I'm not going to say them all out loud. These are all the schools that are listed on our PCC that can be in the accelerator. Not all of them are participating, and that's okay. And that is, of course, if you're on here and you're like, ooh, that's my college and we're not doing that, can we jump in? You sure can. So no worries, just reach out. But some of them are in every meeting, some of them come and go. It's just, they're all in different places with their redesigns. But the accelerator, when you hear me say that, is, and I'm kind of doing a version of that with the Women Employed schools as well, where we meet, check in, problem solve, what are they working on, crowdsource information, give them resources, do a little, we do some small professional development ongoing. And basically it's to help them keep moving forward with their redesigns, keep momentum, because people get tired. That's part of it. We're going to talk about that, especially at the time of the year we're at now. People are real. It's funny, Tara, I was thinking about you the other day, and you're like, I plan on enjoying my summer. We were at a meeting with Tara the other day, and we're like, so what you going to do this summer? She's like, not working. So
yeah, I was like, oh, this is a trap right here, because I was planning on nothing, but apparently there's other plans out there.
That's what's really interesting. I love watching the ebb and flow of how this work happens. So it's like, and it's funny because I've been in it forever, but then the pandemic happened. And as we know, that's like a giant asterisk on everything. And so it's like, those years were different. And it's like, now I'm really starting to see the ebbs and flows of how this works. And everybody's right now is like, I got to get stuff done so we can have it for fall. We're going to hit June and July, and people are going to peace out for a little bit. And then everyone will come back in August, and we gear up again. All right. Yes, that's awesome. And Chris Warden from Women Employed commented about the work they do and Partnership for College Completion in the chat. Okay, so So what's the goal of both these projects? Help these schools keep moving, help them keep connected with each other, make progress, solve problems. We try to celebrate wins. We try to help them any way we can. And I really just love the sharing that happens and hearing what people are doing. And I'm going to be sharing some things that people are doing in just a minute. So this is a consistent theme across the schools in Illinois and every schools I see everywhere. And I don't want this to come off as like a judgment. It's not, because I'm in the same boat. When I was at my college, we were in the same boat as well. I remember ICCB, which is Illinois Community College Board for those non-Illinoisans. That means you don't necessarily have a governor in prison. Haha, no, it's a joke. Anyway, ICCB, they would come out regularly with, okay, what are you doing with Dev Ed? And we're like, we've all been doing a bunch of stuff, but it's like, but what's actually changed? And I think that's the thing, especially as someone this is all I've done forever, is what are we doing to make a Dev Ed different? It's a lot of work. And what can happen is you can be doing a lot of things and having a lot of meetings, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's always progress. And there's good reason for that. And it's not because you're sitting around not doing anything. That's not it. So we're going to talk about why does that happen and what can we do and to keep things moving, and what can you learn from these schools, trying to give you a full picture that will help you with your own reform wherever you're at with it. Okay, so the biggest lesson that I'm seeing constantly is go further than you're initially comfortable with. And I'm going to give you lots of examples of this. But if you take away nothing, if you're off to an email, if you could come back to me, this is the thing I want you to take away from it. And I want you to be thinking about your own school. What could we go further with? I'm going to give you some very concrete examples of things you can look at so you don't have to try to figure them out. Okay, and the recording will be available and all of that, so you can, you don't have to take notes. You can come back to anything you want to see. But this is, we all, myself included, like I used to think co-recs were only for people that almost placed in the college level. Turns out a lot more than that can pass. We used to think that GPA could only be used in certain cases. There's all kinds of things like that where we're nervous. We don't want to do harm. And, we are like, oh, we don't want to go too far. But what we find out a lot of times is there's always someone who does go farther. And then and I did look it up, further and farther. I am using further, correct? Farther is for distance, physical. Further is conceptual. So I was really happy about that. I'm like,
I always, in my head, Kathy, I always say, we will discuss further who can throw the ball farther. That's how I remember it every time.
Someone knows the difference here, and I want to make sure I got my words right. In fact, a lot of math people are really good with English. I mean, they will tell you. So somebody goes further. It always happens. And we learn from that. And we learn, and a lot of times, I mean, I'm very willing to do that. My school, everybody knew I was just kind of a guinea pig. I'd be willing, happily try anything and see what happens. But getting a whole institution to try something is hard. And there have been some that have. And what's cool is we learn and we can take things from that. And I think the biggest thing is the sky is not going to fall. And I think a lot of people can be very nervous. If we do too much, we're going to be doing harm. And that goes off of the assumption that we're not doing harm now. And we are. We're probably always going to be doing some harm. We don't want to. We want to minimize it. But there are times where we are doing harm and we don't even realize it. So why don't redesigns go as far as they should? It's not because people, aren't working on them. Of course, they're working on them. So what happens? People get tired. They get burnt out. They get initiative fatigue, especially like in our state. We've got laws every time you turn around. I know a lot of states are in that same boat. It just feels like, and not beyond laws, you got your own stuff your college is doing. Then you got your stuff your department's doing. Then you got accreditation on top of it. Everybody's got a lot of stuff. And then, oh, by the way, you're people with lives. So, there's just a lot going on. This is a biggie. There are colleges that get stalled out because they cannot get past certain topics. They just disagree philosophically and they cannot get a compromise. And so they will just stop on certain things. And so maybe their redesign moves forward, but there's particular aspects of it that don't. A common place I see this, placement. We have a lot of differences of opinion on placement. This is one. It's like, okay, we got our courses in place. We got our new schedule. We're good. And it just feels like, that means things are working. And whenever I say this, I think they're probably all like, oh, Kathy, you're just looking for a lifetime job. It's like, no, I'm not. The reality is that all these things need tweaking, always. My redesigns, everybody's redesigns, doesn't matter who they are, they never work perfectly out the gate, and they don't work perfectly forever, you know, as it is. You have to constantly look at data. And that's the issue. We're constantly seeing schools, they can't get data even if they want to. So it's like, sure, I'd love to make a change, but I don't even know what the data says because we can't get the data from our. Some people, they don't have an IR department. Some people, they have one person and that person's just trying to keep up with compliance. So it's a struggle. Okay. So that's what I want to give you. I mean, that's the downside. I want to give you good side. I want to give you lots of ideas and hopeful things that you can actually do, you can take back to your college, and they aren't going to be enormous to be able to get going. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples from colleges that are either in Aspire or the PCC group. And if your college is not picked, let me tell you something. We could do examples all day long. And if someone's like, oh, we're doing something and she didn't list it, put it in the chat, because all these colleges are doing good work. I'm just trying to pick some ones that I could give like concrete examples on. Lewis and Clark is one I always point to, but I have a specific piece of data that I haven't shared ever actually in a presentation. It was shared with me at one point. I immediately saved it. I'm like, I got to show people that. Okay, so Lewis and Clark Community College went to scale with co-requisites in both English and math in 2016. They've gone the furthest, I would say, of any school in Illinois, because co-reqs at their school are the default. They have very little that is not a co-requisite. So, you know, lots of schools have co-requisites, but how much do you use them? They are the default, and they have been that way for years, and they use math pathways. Okay, this is what I want you to see. And if you're ever wondering, especially like if you're like math faculty and you're like, why are they on us to make all these changes? This is the data that presidents see. So this was data that was presented to Lewis and Clark's board, and it compared their graduation rates with their cohort colleges. And you can see they're in the blue, cohort is in the pinkish purple, and they are far above them, okay? They weren't, but now they are. Now, I am not gonna say they did co-requisites and the magic just happened, okay? Because first off, you can see as a math person, I'm like, okay, I know they didn't start co-requisites until 2016 and the data started going up in 2014. Okay, so they were already doing things, and I'm familiar with Lewis and Clark. They're definitely, like a lot of colleges, they are initiative, you know, focused. They are making changes. Okay, so they were already making changes, but this is one change that was a huge one, campus wide, and it not only helped their other changes, but it continued and it increased them. It's not the only thing, but it definitely did not hurt anything. It did help. And if they have a lot of data, and they know that the co-requisites have had us, you know, a lot of impact and a positive for their school. Is everything positive? No. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But I think what's cool is they are really heavily focused on the data. And I think that helps them refine their implementation more so than some other schools can, because they just may not have the information. Okay, Blackhawk. So I'm gonna come back to Lewis and Clark in a second about something else, but I want to mention Blackhawk College. So they were an example of, and they said this because it's funny, I remember writing this down in a meeting, when Toria Norman, I'm like lost her last name, Toria Norman, she's in English, but math did the same thing. They said, we just decided to rip off the Band-Aid. I'm always telling schools, rip off the Band-Aid, stop just having a few sections of co-reqs, like really schedule co-reqs and pull back on your other sections. And they're like, well, we can't get anybody to sign up. But I'm like, you need to schedule more of them, and they will sign up, and pull back on the other ones, and students won't have anything to sign up for. And that's exactly what happened. And so it's like, oh, now they actually like, that's where their students sign up. And when they add sections, it's co-reqs. They don't have very much that isn't. But so that was, you know, go further. Here's a really simple thing for you. Look at your schedule for the fall. And you're going to hear me say that multiple times in here, but that is something that is not hard to change, and you can get a big impact for. Now, I'm not stupid. If people have their teaching load already, that can create issues. I get that, but it is something that you can play with, usually with minimal fallout. especially if you can maintain someone's hours, because sometimes people are like, well, I was counting on that course because that was going to give me a certain load. Okay, Kishwaukee, I love this. They're another one. Okay, so it's funny, Tara, pre-algebra. We always talk pre-algebra when I'm talking with Tara. So Kishwaukee is an example of they don't have pre-algebra for their non-STEM students. If you're non-STEM bound, you either take the college course or you take the co-rec. That's it. So that's one I would consider. Could you go further? So the thing I want you to think about with this, especially if you're a math person, we're not saying pre-algebra ideas don't matter. We're saying not having a full course is the change. The concepts are included elsewhere, and they're included in context, which means students are more likely to remember them and be able to apply them to what they're learning. So it's a win all the way around. So I just think this is fascinating. And there's lots of schools that have done this around the country. If for non-STEM, you're either in the course or you're in the co-rec, there's nothing below. Now, are we saying that every student can do this? There are cases where this is probably still too much. But again, I think the main thing that we learned is it's not as many students as we thought. There are some very low students, but it is a small percentage. If you really look at them. I'm not talking about looking at an AccuPlacer score. I'm talking about just overall, because there's a lot of students that don't score well on AccuPlacer, but could actually pass courses. So I'm just saying there are some students that are cognitively very low, but they are not a large number at most schools. Okay, Illinois Central. So let's brag on Illinois Central. We've got Joe Bergman, that's dean over math and science. He's here with us today. So evidently, they just found out that they are a grant recipient from ICCB. I'm curious, anybody else here find out this week if you applied for ICCB grant? Did anybody else get their grant? Because we've heard a couple colleges. So I'm always excited for that. Secondly, I actually have I have a Post-it note on my desk. I'm like, tell people this. This is awesome. They came up with the coolest idea. They came up with a voucher. So actually, I don't know, Joe, I don't want to put you on the spot if you're doing something else, but would you like to speak to it and explain how you guys are doing that?
Sure. We've had co-requisites in a couple of our courses for a little while, and we've expanded it to all our entry points for transfer level math. But students see it as taking 2 math classes, and a lot of the students have no desire to take 1, let alone 2 math classes. So we've been having a hard time selling it, even though they'll sign up for a 5-credit developmental course when they could have satisfied the transfer with the co-requisite. So I'm trying to make it more attractive, if you will, for the students. So I convinced our cabinet to sign off on a project in which if a student signs up for our co-requisite course and they're successful, we will provide a voucher for the cost of that co-requisite course that they can apply towards the next semester's whatever courses they're taking. So we're trying to drive students into the co-requisite option. We have, to Kathy's point, we have limited a lot of our sections and other things, and we only have the 1 developmental course pathway for the students, and limited the sections. So we're trying to put a lot of things out there to make it as attractive as possible for them. But we're hoping that this will help not only get them through the math that they need to get through, but help them to persist and complete. And maybe in a couple of years, you can show a chart, or ICC is outperforming the other colleges in their graduation rates, right?
Definitely. I want to hear how this works out, because I think it is phenomenal. It is original. I've never heard this. So a voucher. So it's like, the student's like, I don't want to take 2 credits. Well, if you pass these 2 credits of the co-rec, they're going to apply that to 2 credits you take in the future. So you're incentivized to take it and pass it. And I think that's awesome. There's a couple other things I want to mention to those of you that are struggling to get students to sign up for co-recs, because Joe already mentioned one, which is they're offering more co-recs and they don't have much else that is for students to take. Another is I know of a school, it's not in Illinois, but I know of a school that they have a fee on the college level part. It's small, but that everybody pays, and then anybody can take the co-rec and there's no cost to it. Now, I get that that's not free. I get that, but that takes away the debate. Do I have to pay for it? And the fee is, if you have all the students doing it, you don't have to have a very large fee to accomplish that. Another one is making sure that your co-rec classes are support courses and not just an additional class. So making sure they are, so it's easier to sell to a student if you're like, hey, don't think of this as 2 hours of a class. Think of this as 2 hours with your teacher to help you pass your class. That makes it easier to sell too. Did anybody have any questions though for Joe while we've got him on about the voucher?
Actually, I did have a question on that voucher thing. When you say that students were not wanting to take the co-rec, is it because it's optional? Like why? I don't know.
Well,
I guess we kind of have it to where it's like it's not really, and you kind of have to take it. So it'd be like students saying, "Well, I don't want to take a math class." Well,
they have two choices. They could take the, if you will, more traditional developmental course. And if they're successful there, then they'll get into the transfer level course, or they could take the co-rec directly with the transfer course. So again, a lot of students felt more comfortable because again, in some cases it was new, but this idea, to Kathy's point, we're really trying hard to sell that this is a course to help you be successful in the course that actually is going to get you the credit that you need, not, this extra burden that they perceive it to be that, oh, now I have 5 credits of math I have to do. I don't really want to do that. But then they sign up for the developmental, which was 5 credits anyway. So it didn't add up for somebody that is in the math and science area that this is what they were choosing.
they're just picking the devil they know, you think?
Yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. And the ironic thing is that we've had, a co-recs at Model in English since I think 2013, and it's been extremely successful. So it's not like they're not familiar with the model. We do call it co-rec math when they call it the ALP program, the Accelerated Learning Program, because we kind of field tested that. And again, the idea of using the word accelerated with math for math phobic people did not go over well. So
Right.
The co-rec is different language, so that might be part of it, but it's also language that they're more comfortable with because accelerated, you lost them right there.
What is the credit hour? Is it like a 3+2, a 4+2, 4+1?
For our general education, 2 general education pathways, those are 2 credit co-requisites to go with the 3 credit transfer. And then we also have a 2 credit co-requisite for our college algebra.
And is college algebra 4 credit hours?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, it's 2-3, 2-3 to 2-4.
And the college was your college was pretty Illinois Central, right?
Correct.
It was pretty open to that voucher program of giving students that that money back basically.
I mean, if it's something that benefits students, I can usually sell it. And again, I did a lot of number crunching and tried to show that, again, the advantage is long term. You got to look at the long game here. You're not looking at the short game. So yes, you do lose a little bit of money, but the idea that we already know based off of research and stuff that the co-requisite success rates are much higher than the traditional developmental, nationally as well as in our institution. So again, the more students they get through, the more they're going to persist, and that means that they're going to be investing more dollars down the road. Whereas if they hit this roadblock and they stop out, then we don't have them. And as much as we like to think like every other school in the world, we're an online institution now. The reality is that our population is the population in our district, and we need to be as attractive to them as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that actually, that's a good segue. I'm going to go into the next thing. This is related. So Lewis and Clark is a college that does this. I've seen some other colleges that do this as well. They have a really good data dashboard. If you could get someone on your campus to invest some time in this, it's not something that takes an immense amount of time or immense amount of money, but the time and money that is invested is so worth it. So Lewis and Clark, I remember them telling me things like, because they have such a sophisticated dashboard, they could really look and see, okay, are we doing any harm to the students who aren't passing co-requisites? And what they found is they could study them on specifically Black male students who got a D in a co-requisite were more likely to graduate or accumulate hours than students in a comparable cohort that didn't have co-requisites. They were able to see that kind of information. And then I had this just last week with another college where they had their dashboard, and we were able to go in and pull up, again, the students that got a D, the students that got an F, and we could see what happened to them. And we could look at like the next several semesters, and we could see that if they got a D or an F in, say, an entry chemistry class and an entry math class, they were very likely to leave the college. It wasn't just change their major. A lot of them changed their major if they didn't leave. Otherwise they just left. And I get it. And we can't just say, fail this class, you immediately leave. But I'm not saying it's causation, but there's correlation, I'm sure. There's a relationship there that we know that when students have a poor experience, that they just generalize too much out of it. And they're like, oh, I'm just not meant for college. And they leave. And again, for those of you that are faculty, I'm never advocating that means dumb it down and give them grades. I'm saying we need to advocate that what our courses are, the sequences and where we're putting students are the right places to put them. That's what I'm advocating for, not, well, we'll make sure give them all an A and then they'll stay. That's not what we're saying at all. They need to have a legitimate win. That is what keeps students continuing with college, that they actually earned and they know they earned it. Okay, so getting a dashboard. And if you're in Aspire or the PCC group, you're going to hear me mention this more, and we're going to be focusing more on these kinds of things. We're talking about these tweaks and what things we can get from data as the year continues. Okay, so what we're learning is, in some ways, I often compare redesign because it reminds me of, like, if you're trying to get fit, it's like exercise. Real change does not happen when it feels easy. You've got to have some discomfort. Unfortunately, that's where you have growth. So if you are in your redesign right now and it's like, yeah, all these changes were really easy to make, you probably didn't go far enough. You probably, and I will say again, as someone who was math faculty, it's hard for math faculty a lot of times to go as far as possible for a couple of reasons. First off, they might be nervous about making that change. And secondly, they might be worried about the politics of it. It's like, how do you push for a change that is going to impact administrators in another area? You may feel like, I don't know that I have the authority to be pushing for something that has such, that's going to impact so much more than just a math class. It's actually like an institutional change. So I get why people don't always go as far as they can. And sometimes they're just like that. They're like, I'm good. That's all I'm comfortable with. That also happens. But this is a big thing. And so this is another one I want you, like, if you can take away something from today, this is what I want you to take away. It's not just what we're doing. Like, I have a co-requisite. It's how you're doing it. So it's not enough that it exists, but it's the execution of it. That's what we need to be looking at. And what's cool is once it exists, because that's the hard part, tweaking with the execution is usually easier. It's getting those dang courses approved on the book, scheduled, all that stuff, and getting students in them. That's the hard work. These adjustments are not as involved, but they matter, and they can really make a big difference in terms of long-term outcomes. But just keep in mind, just like exercise, there's no done. Okay, you might take a break if you're like, hey, Kathy, we're worn out. So rest. But then we got to come back and then we got to look at it again. What are some things that we can improve? The cool thing is once you get into iteration, the work is not as intense and as often as when you're first implementing. Implementing is intense. Okay, so where can you go further? I want to give you some specific ideas. How could you go further in your implementation? One is, if you're offering pre-algebra, considering removing it and offering those concepts in other places. Now, you might be in a state where you don't even have an option to offer it. But if you're in a state where you do, I would look at that and see, how can I get that support to students, but not in a standalone course? What can we do different? Here's another one. Really look at, who are we allowing to start in our co-requisites? Could we allow more students than we currently do? A lot of schools can, not always. I mean, some of you are like, you're already there. You're like, we let pretty much anybody that wants in. But if you have courses below your co-requisites or you have other options, look and see, could we open the door a little bit more and let more students start in them, because the benefits can be really, really high. This is one, and we mentioned it earlier with Kishwaukee, but some other schools are doing this. basically for your non-STEM, could you just get to the point where you basically, it's the course, the co-rec, that's it. There is nothing below it. If you don't have that, that would be something, that would be one that is a significant change, but it's often not as hard. I won't say it's not hard, but you might be able to get further with that one than some other things. And it's a good place to start and build some confidence at your college in making change. And then they're going to be more open to doing other ones, but that's a good one. It can have impact, but also be people can palate it. They can stomach it, I should say. This is a biggie. You need to find out what is your default path. There's what you have scheduled, there's what you have on the paper, and then there's what people are told to take or what they assume they should be taking. Your algebra path, unless we all have a bunch of STEM majors that I don't realize because most schools don't, that should not be the default path because that's not the default major. Okay, so students, if they're undecided, this is a huge pet peeve of mine. If you're undecided, push them towards non-STEM, not STEM, just in case. There actually is more downside than upside if we push them into STEM just in case. Why? The pass rates are terrible and we might lose them. And again, like I was talking about earlier, they don't just fail that class, sometimes they just leave altogether. This is another one. A lot of you have bridge courses. A lot of you are using Alex PPL or something else. Could you use them more? Is there more ways that you could take advantage of them? Again, it's just go further. It's not create, it's just extend, what you have. Okay. Another one, a lot of you have, every college has tutoring. Could you put some of those tutors in the classroom? Now, the issue that I hear from a lot of schools is they can't get enough students to tutor. They often don't have enough to hire, but whatever tutors you can get, could you get them in the actual classroom with students? And really that just comes back to, here's another place you can go further. Is there anything that you have that's optional? Go to required, because nobody does optional, not just freshmen. And if you have it where it's like, okay, oh yeah, we've got this thing you can get help. Instead, you're like, no, the help is included in the class and boom, you're taking it. You're going to have better outcomes and just removing the option altogether. All right, so leading indicators. I love these. Okay, this is something I've been thinking about for a while, but I'll get like on a kick on something. I'll be like, ooh, I've been noticing this within a school, so I want to make sure I share this with people. Lagging indicators are the ones that we focus on the most. Things that take a while to get. Pass rates, graduation rates, completion rates, retention, all that stuff. That takes a long time. Especially if you're going for something like graduation, 3 to 4 or 5 years to actually get that data and get significant sample sizes to actually look at it. So you're going to be wondering as you're making changes, how are things going? And it's funny because sometimes I'll get asked this question from others, like, can you tell if a school is at scale or not? I'm like, yes, I can. I can tell you exactly where to look to tell if a school is at scale. So here's some things that I look at that tell a lot, and they're not hard to get. Okay. Number one, go pull up your schedule. Go look at what you're offering. A lot of schools will say, oh, we're not hardly offering anything low level, but then go and actually look and see what's hardly anything. Is it 6 sections of arithmetic? If it is, that's not hardly anything. Okay. So it's like how many sections, and proportionately, because some of you are big schools, some of you are small, but proportionately, how many students are actually taking your lowest offerings? Should they? What's their major? Find those things out. That usually does not take that long to get that information, and it's super illuminating. Okay. How many sections of beginning algebra and pre-algebra, arithmetic, things like that? How many of you are offering them? Now in Illinois, you might still be allowed to offer, like, you can have basically one of those, but you shouldn't have gobs of sections at them proportionate to other things you're offering. They should be a small offering for a small population that needs a lot more support. Okay. How many, like that, how many co-requisite schedules proportionally or sections are on your schedule? This is a biggie. Everybody says they're doing multiple measures, and most people are, but those placement tests, they just kind of seem to, they're like a bad penny. They just seem to pop up a lot. I would check in with your testing center and ask them, how many placement tests in math did we give in the last 6 months? That's going to tell you a lot of information, because what you're going to find out is, oh, we are still giving it, or, oh, we really don't even have it anymore. You're going to find out something, but that number is easy for them to give because testing coordinators have to have that for their budget. They're going to be able to quickly pull that number and you will know. And I will tell you, if you see a huge number of students are testing, try to get some more information and find out, are those high school students? Because what a lot of colleges are moving towards, as they do more multiple measures placement, they're still using placement tests with high school students, which can make sense depending on the situation. I don't want to go in that whole realm of that, but you just poke a little bit and you can find out, who is taking them then? And it's not enough just to find out how many AccuPlacer, but like AccuPlacer math, how many of those, or Alex math or whatever are they taking? This is a biggie. There are lots of different ways to get it, hard and easy. Maybe some are more valid than others, but you need a way to know. Go to your college algebra students. Students are currently in college algebra. What % of them actually needed it for their major or transfer? Because the only students that should be in college algebra are ones that need it they're transferring to a 4-year, or it's required because they're going on, in Illinois specifically, because you're going on to take like business calculus, or you're taking math for elementary teachers. Now, college algebra is different in different states. Some states, it is the magic course you have to have. Illinois, it is not. So for all the Illinois schools, this is one to look at, okay? Who's actually in those courses? It should be the students who need it, not a catch-all, okay? This is a great one to have. You just ask your advisors. You just ask your head of advising to ask their advisors, like, hey, when you have a student who's undecided, what do you tell them to take? Just ask them that question. Again, what is actually happening and what we think is happening, not always the same things. And this has happened to me a million times. My own implementations at my school, it happens to everybody. Colleges are big. It's hard to know every little thing that's happening everywhere. So ask, and you might be like, oh, I didn't know that's what they were telling them. And we need to have a conversation, like, what do we want to tell these students and why? Why are we doing this? Okay. So none of those take long to get. All of them are super illuminating. They're going to tell you a lot of things and places where, again, you can make some adjustments and you will have an impact with them. Okay. So small tweaks. Here's another one I would look at. What's your total number of hours between your college level and your co-rec? If it is 6, sometimes 6 is necessary. If it's 7 or more, take a look at it. You don't want to be 7 or more for number of credit hours that you're doing with a co-rec, because that's going to be, for most students, more than half their schedule, and it's going to mess things up with financial aid and other things, potentially insurance, if they have to drop. Okay, so I would look at, and if you're thinking, Kathy, we can't do it in less, not true. There's a difference between how many hours I need with a student and how it's counted on paper. Okay, if you need 6 hours with a student, you can get that, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to count for 6 hours. You can do lab hours, you can do additional contact, but not credit hours. There's all kinds of ways you can play with this. It is not always 1-for-1. Okay, so that's one to look at. You're like, because you literally can get more time without recording it as more credit hours legally. I'm not asking you to do anything that's not right. You can do this legit. Okay. Again, look at, who are we telling to take college algebra, and regardless of who we're telling, who's signing up for it because of whatever they believe. Like maybe one thing you need to do with the math faculty, I know we had to do this at my school. We all had to have a statement on our syllabus. If you taught college algebra, trig, or pre-calc, that we all said on the first day, we said throughout the first week, who should be in this class and who shouldn't. And we had to move students regularly because they're like, well, I'm in college and I need math, hence algebra. So I signed up for college algebra. A little deductive reasoning, but it's not always right. So we need to help them with that. Who's getting recommended to take a placement test? How often? When? Those kinds of things. Need to look at that. It's not that placement tests don't ever have a place, but they don't need to be used as much as we once thought. And they don't bear as much information as we once thought either. This is one, and those of you that are in Aspire, you've heard me mention this regularly or recently. Look at step by step. What's the process when a student starts at your school? Like, what's the intake process? Is there any part of it that's really off-putting to students? And again, I'm not saying that we have to bow down and the student is our customer and all of that. I'm not saying that. But if we have, like years ago at my school, you used to have to go to all these different buildings all over campus. that was really off-putting to students. So that led to us actually, like, they redesigned a building and they put like all the student services in one building. That's big. I'm not asking you to do stuff like that. I'm just asking, are there anything that you're doing in your intake process that you could simplify? And does everything that's in it have to be done? Like, if a placement test is part of it, I would pull that. You don't need to have every student take a placement test. You know, that's, again, one of those things where students sometimes just won't start if that's part of the requirement. They'll go to some place where it isn't required. Okay, this is 2 words that really matter: simple scales. So constantly, a thing that you should be asking yourself is, could we simplify fill in the blank, whatever it is? Could we simplify placement? Could we simplify registration, advising, whatever? Whatever you can do to simplify things is going to make it easier for your advisors to advise students, for students to get in the right place, and for you to execute on it. So that's typically the way when we start doing redesigns. They're more complex initially than they have to be, but over time, the more you can look at it and iterate it, you can trim it and you can make it simpler. Okay, so some more lessons. These are different though. These lessons are big picture, and this is what I love working with so many schools all at once. You know, we got 10 Aspire schools, you got all these schools that are in PCC. There's themes that we're seeing, and these are beneficial too. Okay, so especially if you're in Illinois and you're not aware of this, there was another law that requires every college. And Chris, can you put it in the chat? I don't remember if that was approved last year or this year, Chris Warden, but there was a law that requires every college to have an equity plan. Now, some of your colleges already had them because you might be an ILEA college, but not every college is an ILEA college. And so you may not have an equity plan. So this is one thing that a lot of colleges are up against. And even if you're not in Illinois, you're up against, you need all 3 of these. And it's like, but we don't want to be putting people in 3 different directions. So this is my suggestion from the colleges that do this. It economizes on effort and it increases your impact. Developmental math or developmental ed plan should be a part of a larger equity initiative, and equity should be just one of your core features of your strategic plan. So if you're an administrator, if you go with this approach, then you're not duplicating efforts all throughout. It's like we're just checking more things off as we go, and all of our goals are aligned. Okay, so House Bill 5464. So this is the equity bill that I was talking about that was passed last year. That's right. Okay, so if you're like, yay, another thing we get to do, you're all right. I didn't want to share that with everybody, but it exists, and most administrators at this point, they know about it. But if you're like, oh my God, I have to do a whole nother plan, again, using this approach, we're not inventing the wheel. Okay, we're trying to take our work and make what we've got work together. Okay, so this is a graphic I've showed lots of different times, and it's this whole, and this is my version of the 4 steps of action. There's the plan, do, act. Oh, I can't remember the 4. It's plan, do, something, act. I can't remember what the S is, PDSA. But there's all different kinds of like 4-step processes like this that are part of an implementation cycle. The one thing I wanted you to see is this is what it looks like when you lay it out flat, okay, in terms of timeline. Initially, you figure out what you're going to do and you start planning, and you like make all your big list, who's going to do what and all of that. Then you go to work. That's when obviously things take time, when you have to start like creating the courses and getting them approved. And then you've got to train people. And then sometimes you have to do a marketing effort. And like, there's so much that happens. So if you notice the blue implement, each one of these boxes is a month. And this is approximate. But you can see it's way longer than figuring out what you're going to do. Well, here's what I want you to see. Iteration is way longer than that. But it's not as intense. Yes, it's longer, but you really commit a lot of intensity at the beginning, and then it gets easier as you go. The thing I've seen is schools that don't go far enough at the beginning, they have to do more as they go because they're always ripping a Band-Aid off. So that's why I'm always just like, let's just do it. Let's just say, we're getting rid of this test, or we're getting rid of whatever, like, because I heard someone yesterday is like, we just need to get rid of AccuPlacer. Okay, decide your semester and say, that's it. We're pulling it, and that's the last time. That will make it easier to just keep moving forward. Otherwise, these things just hang around forever. And this is the last thing I want to mention. I love studying what it takes to make redesign work? What do colleges do? And I want to share this because I love this, because figuring this out was very illuminating to me, especially if you're coming from the faculty lens. We're thinking about students, and so we start with the classroom a lot of times. And the thing that is so key to all these math redesigns is it takes so much more than the classroom. And so you have to look at, like, what is the culture? Meaning, how do you guys talk to each other across campus and make decisions and communicate things? Because that's going to be a constant no matter where you're at in the change process. And then how do all the disparate areas of the campus, how are they functioning? Like, how's advising working? How's IR working? How's like the curriculum process working? Is each area working, and are they working together? Nobody has this perfect, but it's just places to look at. It's like, oh, like sometimes we'll have a college that's working, like there's parts of it that are working outstandingly well, but they don't necessarily communicate to other parts of it as well. So it's, when you look at it like through this lens, it kind of gives you another way to look at what does it take to have success. We have to look at like the broad picture and then drill down from there. And eventually, yes, the classroom becomes the focus, but it's not where to start a lot of times if you really want to have a bigger impact. Okay, so there was something else I was going to tell you with that, but it just evaporated, which is my life. All right. So, ooh, I cannot believe I'm doing good on time. Yay me. All right, questions or comments, thoughts, you can unmute, let me know, or you can put it in the chat. Or if there's something you want to share that your school's doing, it's like, ooh, we're doing this, and you want to tell people, feel free to unmute. Once. Or does anybody have any questions related to their own redesign?
I actually did have a question. I was going back through my notes here to find it.
Yay!
The leading indicators.
Yes.
You said how many students are enrolled in our lowest offerings, how many sections of beginning algebra, things like that. What's the indicator that you're looking for? Because we have a boatload of those developmental courses and not, maybe like 4 sections of college algebra. And so like, what kind of ratio is?
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say the ratio that I would want to see is that the percentage of students that are in your very, very lowest should be really small. I don't know the exact number, if it should be like 10% or less, but it should not be a large number. The bulk of your students should be, for most schools, they can have a fair number of students that start either in the course or in a co-rec version of it. The ones that are in additional to that, maybe like if they need an additional semester, maybe 20 to 30%, but it should not be huge. And that's not like hard and fast, but the bulk is, the majority should be headed towards college level or college level support. Most students can do that. And especially if we use pathways and we only have students going into, say, college algebra that need it for their major. And I know Tara's heard me say this, but I'll say it to others. When you have students that are only taking college algebra because they need it, you're not going to have all your lowest students. They're typically not headed towards those fields, except education. Sometimes we have some lower students and they want to go in education. That can be, but it's not a huge percentage. So you're not going to have tons of students who need college algebra and are starting at arithmetic. So if we get them funneled into the right directions, that doesn't happen as much. But the majority should be starting college level or college level with support. Because keep in mind, everybody that's in Illinois, there are other states right now that are jealous of you because they don't even have an option. All their students start in college level or college level with support. So if we are going to have an option that's lower, it should be for a small percentage of students.
Okay, thank you. Because yeah, that having all those sections, I'm thinking, okay, that means that we need to tweak our placement measures.
Yeah, potentially.
That we can, manipulate that a little bit and just see what happens, and that, now that we're in that, what was it, the iteration process?
Yes, you're an iteration.
All right, thank you.
All right, I love it. What other questions do we have? Again, you can unmute or put it in the chat.
May I just make a quick comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, first of all, I joined late because I teach a college algebra class. It ends 12:30. And I'm from California. And I just want to let the other people in Illinois know that you guys are in a very good situation. because we don't have anything less than a college algebra in California, community college. And it makes it very difficult to help our students because the one I just finished teaching today is a college algebra with a 1 unit co-requisite. But we have students that should have been taking developmental math courses, could be as low as P algebra, but we're just giving them 1 unit, and that's supposed to be enough to help them go from P algebra all the way up to intermediate algebra and get ready for college algebra. That's just unrealistic. So
Oh my gosh. I feel for you
it's just
so
to let
much.
you guys know that
Yeah.
you need to be aware of that. This doesn't work. And also to get rid of the objective placement test in California is all about high school GPA and what the last math course they took in high school as a placement. That doesn't work out very well as well. Multiple assessments should including at least a objective placement test as part of the information, but we are not allowed to do that anymore. I just want to share that comment and let you guys be aware of it.
I am so glad you mentioned this. I'm not happy that you're in that situation. I'm definitely not. I pay a lot of attention. It's funny because I'm back in my doctoral program and I just wrote one of my papers that I wrote this semester was talking about DERA, our legislation, how it compares to AB 705, which is what California has. But for those Illinois folks, that's another state. They're in a different place. And in California, a unit is for us a credit hour. So they're literally saying they've got students in a college algebra course with a 1 credit hour co-requisite. And he's saying he's got students that are at the pre-algebra level. I mean, that's just a miracle. I don't know that any of us can make happen. I mean, it isn't. So my suggestion, I mean, California, that's just hard. I mean, because you guys are, I know there's limits on what you're allowed to do, but for the Illinois folks, I think the thing to learn from that is we can go further. They went really far. And there's some places where I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if that going that far was enough, but there are places that we could go further and still safely have good results. That's really far. And that's what's hard. And I think, especially since I teach math, I feel for you because it's like, I can't make that happen for students at that level necessarily. It's a huge, huge, huge lift. So that is really challenging. I hate not being able to give good news because that really bugs me out. I like solving problems. Anyone else have comments or thoughts on it? Oh, that's awesome. Heidi, Heidi's from Joliet. So yes, I'm glad if I got you thinking at all, if I got you thinking one thing that you could potentially do that would be something that's, it's not going to take you hours and hours, but it could give you some insight. I'm hopefully I did. And this is the other thing. So if you are struggling with something, if you have a question, reach out. And if it's not like I have a ton of room, I have a little space in my schedule, but if your college wants more intensive help, reach out to me because that is what I do. I can't take on 10 more colleges, but I could take on a couple if I need, because I space them out in terms of when I'm helping them with things. So if you need more support, if you're in Illinois college and you're possibly like, if you could be in PCC, but your name was on that list, but you're not participating, come on down. But you can always email as well. And I do my best to try to answer those. Although those of you who've received emails from me, my email box can get bad. And then, so it takes me a minute and then you have to remind me. I always apologize for that. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we will be sending out the recording. So if there's anything you missed, no worries. And if you have questions, whatever, just let me know. I so appreciate you giving me a little bit of your Friday. So have a wonderful weekend.